But yeah, that's why the C-130 is the best plane, because it can haul a tank, it can haul a bunch of people, it can land on a dirt road, and it can still come back home and pick up your grandma's floral couch, and then you're good to go.
Your grandma lets you touch her couch?
I mean, it's still covered in plastic sheets. Though,
Yeah, there it is.
so,
Yeah.
It's still covered in plastic.
because
And it matches the curtains and the carpet and pillows, everything.
Because those big old moo-moos is the reason why grandma and grandpa had 12 kids, had to cover the couches in plastic.
Oh, that's memory lane. That. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome back, everyone, to High Alpha Hooligans. I'm Scud. We've got Fifi and Jimmy as always. Today's episode is our first impressions of the F4U Corsair. But before we jump into that, we got some really awesome news and announcement. Jimmy, you want to let the people know?
Okay, I guess. So pre-recording, I was like, "Hey, I don't want to do this," and they're like, "Nope, you got to do it."
Yeah, it's you.
So this last week, so everybody knows, we fly in a couple groups together, and it's been a lot of fun building these groups because we build the missions, we build the content, and it's kind of like building the atmosphere. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about, I think, in our first episodes where we talked about building the community.
Oh yeah.
And the big thing with this announcement that I have is. Yeah,
Brother.
I mean that's what it is. And brother, the big thing that I just keep going back to is DCS is one of the best communities out there, because this week I hit up Fox 3, Solutions. I hit up Luck, and I was like, hey, because we have we talk about it. We fly with people from Japan, we fly with people from Australia, we've got a couple people in Europe, and we have servers in our houses, that we maintain, and it's always
you have a server in your house that you
We don't.
We don't.
I'm saying collectively we. I'm just the
man.
I'm just the janitor. I just dropped my bolt. I always have to have something that I fumble with, and so I got a bolt actually today that I'm screwing on, screwing off. Got to keep my hands occupied, but
2.5 minutes in and we've derailed.
Oh, big time. I think that is High Alpha. But so I hit up Fox 3. I was like, hey, this is our group. This is where we are. This is kind of who he is. And through conversation, we're now sponsored.
We're sponsored.
We're sponsored.
Sponsored by Fox 3. No big deal. And you guys probably noticed that from the awesome intro with like graphics way beyond our capability. It was not crayon.
That was something. Yeah, that was something that they sent us.
Yes.
And so I'm just gonna put this together. Actually,
we can.
I was actually sitting there, like it was like the wife was like finishing up cooking dinner because she made buff bourguignon, fancy French dish.
You said buff
bourguignon,
buff beef bouillon is what I heard.
Yeah.
Buff soup.
Beef soup, right? So she was making that, and I had like the kiddo sitting on my lap, and I was like, I wonder if I can do something cool with this. And so like me and the kiddo were just sitting there like messing with it, and then it just all kind of came together in about 10 minutes, and I was like, holy crap, that's funny, that's awesome. So normally like I send things to you guys to get like approval from the group for it, and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna post this one.
Yeah.
We going hot, boys. We going hot.
High Alpha Hooligans is sponsored. Brought to you by Fox 3 servers. It's nice to say.
That is, yeah.
And that's basically how the conversation went. It was literally 10 minutes of, dude, I like DCS and I like to fly with my friends, and we find people on the internet and we capture them so they fly with us, so we have more people to fly with. And he's like, I got you, fam.
Capture them? That sounds weird, but
we throw them in a van with no windows.
Yeah.
You're locked.
Yeah, but for real though, like really big shout out, thanks to Fox 3 for doing it. And if anybody doesn't know who Fox 3 is, they're a server hosting service for DCS, so that way you can have like a centralized, maintained, and great server location, and you can run all your sorts of missions off of it. They already have everything preloaded on the servers for you. You can have like a team uploading stuff to the server, whoever you have access to. And they're just really awesome, fun people, and it's fairly affordable.
High bandwidth.
too.
It is.
on your sides.
Yeah.
High bandwidth.
So the people that maintain it, that is the big thing, because running a server is it is a time task, because every update you have to update the server. Every time you update a mission, you have to load it. You have to make sure it works with the dedicated server software. And
you know what we should get with Lucky and see if we can get a discount code, a Hooligan discount code. Ooh. We should bug him and see if
you acting like your boy ain't cooking.
He's probably watching.
Yeah, 10% off, and
or a sticker.
If you drop us, or a sticker. Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot you made stickers. But yeah, we'll see if we can get him to do that. It's not a thing. Don't freaking quote me about it, but I think it would be kind of cool to see if we can get it, because they have a goal to. I think they're at 250 servers right now, and
so the goal is for 450, and they're halfway there. Yep.
Yeah. So let's help them get to their goal, to their stretch goal.
Community. Yep.
And
community.
And now, if you're hearing this for the first time and you want to fly where we fly, you can join us on the High Alpha Hooligans Discord, the 56th operations group, with 3 different Fox 3 servers operating, high bandwidth.
Yep.
It's the place to
go.
And
2 special event servers.
Hell yes.
And bandwidth, 4G upload and download. That's something that we residentially.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's not something you're going to get residentially. And it's made a huge difference. Like, this kind of all sparked because there were a handful of us that were having ping issues and trouble playing on our own servers. And this is solving it. Like, runs so smooth now. Fifi mentioned, in addition to all this other stuff, that stickers were made, merch is coming out. And what better way to show off the merch than to hand it over to Jimmy to show off some of our merch.
Oh God.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Fifi. So when I mentioned the Fox 3 sponsorship, Fifi was like instantly, the British are coming, the British are coming. And we had a second surprise, and immediately I knew I couldn't share it with him. So Scott has known about this for about a week.
Yeah. Cause
there's a few key
secrets. I really,
there's a few key people in our group that have seen this, and they are dying to see this reaction.
This comes from a comment from a previous episode.
So what I'm going to do right now to give everybody an idea of what's going on, I have a file that I'm going to send to Fifi and Scud. Scud's seen it, but we're going to get the live reaction of Fifi. And once Fifi has reacted, I'm going to show everybody.
This right here is the reason why, if you're listening on Spotify, you need to get over to YouTube so you can watch this stuff.
Oh, 100%.
I'm so nervous. What the hell?
So we do have merch coming.
We have merch,
and one of our first pieces of licensed merch. We have a lot.
A little bit longer.
Oh my God!
When I say we have a lot, we've got like 4, but one of them is the C-130 pinup of Fifi. Which fits perfect on water bottles, on keyboards, on HOTASes, on your hope chest.
Do you remember saying that, Fifi, that somebody needs to make a picture of you as a pinup? You probably don't even remember saying it.
Say a picture of me. Oh man,
Lozenge, our artist. Thank you.
He's the best. Crying. I'm so.
All right. So, expectations? What do you think? Did that match? Are we above? We below? Where are we at on this one?
It's so good. It's so much better than anything I ever thought it would be.
Happy Father's Day, Fifi.
Oh my God! Yeah, don't take that. Like, wife gets me watching. You guys get me a freaking pinup. You know what? Though?
I can't wait. If I can
get my legs to look like that, I'll be happy.
So the reason that box hasn't been mailed to you is because I've been waiting for these to come in from print.
That's beautiful. That's so good.
I'm gonna put one on my water bottle so that every episode there's just Fifi as a pinup.
Oh my God!
I just made my streaming water bottle, but I think I might cover my Black Rifle coffee. I don't know. We'll work on that because I can't get rid of Pizza Believes in Me because Pizza still does believe in me.
Yes.
I can't with you guys. Oh my God.
All right.
Moving on.
Moving on. We're going to talk about the F4 Corsair.
Yeah.
It it just came out, and you probably know, unless you've been living under a rock, that it's out. We all three have been messing with it and trying to get our first impression, so we can talk about it with you guys.
And this is us talking about the Corsair and how everybody is wrong about the Corsair.
Yes,
Yeah,
including
Yeah.
us,
Including us.
especially myself and
Fifi.
Fifi.
If you could, this dude, release day was crazy because I know Fifi and I were waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. We started texting each other. It was like my 3:30 in the morning. He's like, "Bro, did it drop yet?" I'm like, "No, check the store." And he's like, "Okay." I was like, "All right, I'll wake up again in an hour."
It's true.
Well, and then it dropped,
true.
and I'm out of town for work, so I'm just watching everyone on Discord,
For work.
like just crying to myself because
Work.
I can't be there on drop night either.
That has an office window, a window office.
Work sucks.
Like he doesn't work.
Yeah.
So Fifi, if you could, before we really dive into it, and before we get into the topics and everything, could you give us just we'll say 3-minute loose review of our last couple days and the journey that we took with the F4U?
Oh Jesus. Okay, yeah. So we were super excited about the F4U coming out. Everybody was. One, it's another cool Warbird. It's an iconic Warbird, like the gull wings, the long nose, like another freaking R2800, which was
the black sheep.
The black sheep, like a show that Black Street Drivers, a show that Chaos and I grew up watching. Like there was so much hype around this thing, and it was. I'm gonna piss off Blackbird here and say it's arguably one of the best fighters of the Pacific Theater, and known for
he's excited about everything that's not released yet.
Yeah. So and everything like that, and so the hype was real, right? So 2 days before, I mean, we had like a countdown timer going on and everything like that, and then the constant text, like to the minute, everything, and then it came out. And we immediately jumped into it, and we immediately got pissed off.
As did like so many people. You go online.
Everybody.
And this module is diametrically opposed on the scale. There are people that love it, and there are people that hate it. And
like it exploded.
Yeah, I did.
And I immediately started writing like our own little reviews. I started like a rage fest on it. I think Jimmy was the only one.
He rage quit, actually.
Yeah, so Jimmy loved it. Just let me set the stage right here. Jimmy has loved it since it came out, and Fifi was writing his manifesto. And I hadn't flown it yet, so I know that when I jump in, I'm going to be the tie-breaking vote here. So continue, Fifi.
So I wrote my manifesto and things like that, and so and I wrote it from a position of experience.
Hold on. Just to set the stage, the manifesto, he dropped it in like the Discord with like our group and everything, and everybody instantly was like, "Ooh!"
Yeah, I was so hot about it, and like I have it, and I have it right here, right? So like, I actually pulled it up.
Actually, good review points, yeah.
Yeah, and so I'll kind of touch to a couple of them here. So at first I was super pissed off because everybody was talking about how this was like a 7 or 8. I've seen like up to like 8.5 year dev cycle on this, and then it came out like in the state that it was, and everybody is, and there's always a couple of issues that, and I'm really good about writing off and being objective about a couple issues that just happen on release that you just never can foresee, because I'm in school. I'm a software developer myself. Like I get the struggle, and I mean, I had a mental breakdown last week because I was creating a weight converter calculator program, and I clicked the button and it came up with an error because I forgot a semicolon somewhere, and I had a freaking mental breakdown over it, and I couldn't figure it out for like 3 days until I had to call somebody to go over my code and help me look at it. So I get it. Like it happens. So a couple of the points, was 7-year dev cycle on what I thought at the time was an average product. And I think that people were wrapped up in the fact that it's a Corsair and DCS, and they were overlooking a lot of the issues, including like the flight model design. That's like the biggest one, like the flight model design. How it's super twitchy, and is it overdeveloped or is it underdeveloped? Is it too accurate? Is it not accurate enough? Is it just like super shitty? And we went through, and then like the simulation of the motor and and the lifts and the flight model was the biggest one, and things like
Be-
that.
be-
And I couldn't put my finger. Yeah, go
Before
ahead.
you guys turn off the episode now because you love the F4 and you think we're beating it up, we're not. So
We're not.
give us
No,
time.
this is just
This is
the
just the
process.
setup.
Yeah.
Or
this is
if
just
you hate the F4, listen because we're going to tell you why it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, why it's actually pretty good. And if you want to argue with us, please argue with us about it. So
By joining us, liking, subscribing.
yeah, so something I think that needs to be said is like and Scott, you do as well. We have flown Warbirds.
Yes.
Like I've flown the Stearman and the P-51. Scott, you flew the A-26. Like, we have actually flown like real life Warbirds, so we understand like how Scott said when we were talking about it, like what a high torque light aircraft of the old school analog aircraft should feel. And the Corsair did not feel like that. And there was just a lot of things like the rudder and how like the yaw characteristics were and how light the flight model felt.
The speed.
We talked about how it felt like.
We'll get into that more in depth.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how we felt it. It felt like a paper airplane when you're flying it, and so in game. And there's a lot of subconscious things that as aviators that we feel, that you fly by the seat of your pants, that you feel in your butt. Like it's like that. I don't know if anybody ever seen the movie Rush, the Formula One movie about Niki Lauda.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, what's your superpower, Nikki? Why are you a good Formula One driver? He's like, because I have a great ass. And it's true. And because I feel it. I could feel, what the aircraft would do and things like that. And even in DCS, you fly the Mustang, you fly the P-47, or you fly the Mozzie or the Spitfire, you can feel those things. And you can feel them because they give you some sort of cues in game. But the Corsair doesn't give any of that. And we'll get into it in a little bit about those characteristics and what weird things do. So anyways, I went on a rage about that, and I was like blowing up Scud about it, and I was blowing up Jimmy, and like we were getting in arguments about it, and Scud was like, hold on, let me get home and we'll figure this out, once we.
Dude, Fifi was
Linda.
Fifi was like, he wrote his manifesto and then he wrote to us and he's like, I'm gonna film an early episode just by myself tearing this thing apart. And I was like, can you give me 2 days?
Oh.
Give me 2 days to get in the airplane and join you on this. Like,
And it's
slow
true.
down, Fifi.
And it's true. So we ended up flying it a lot more, and then Scud, I started, and before Scud even got home, I dug into the manuals, and I started digging into a bunch of engineering shit. But I think at this point I've talked too much, so I'll pass it off to you guys. But at this point now, at this point in the story,
Actually,
I am digging through the engineering manuals. Yeah.
Good transition, Scud. To kind of further develop the progress we did, can you talk about the Warbirds mission we flew last night, and then kind of like that progress forward that we did? Because it took Scud and I like 2 days to catch up with where Fifi was.
I want to talk about that. That's specifically related to the performance in the flight model. But let's jump into the review of the airplane, and let's start with something that's I think is objectively awesome. So let's start off with the 3D modeling, the visual model, right? I am blown away by the visual model on the Corsair. It's almost probably heat blur level 3D modeling, visual modeling.
Don't say that. Don't say that because Mag 3 and
I'm not trying to cause any drama there. I'm just saying that
right.
that the 3D model is extremely detailed, and if you do the 20-foot back, look like you buy an old car and it looks great. Any car looks great from 20 feet away, and then you walk up and see the scratches. If you do the 20-foot back, it looks cool. If you walk up and get close in on that model, there is so much attention to detail that it blows me away. If you're in the cockpit and you look, if you've got track IR or VR and you can move your head around and look under the seat at all of the hydraulic, fuel lines, air ducts, blowers, electrical, data plates on all of them that say what they are. They put a huge amount of detail in it. Where the wing folds, all of the moving linkages. I did an F4 view and I moved myself into that joint where the wing is and kept folding and unfolding the wings with my head inside the wing, looking at the fact that even after the wing is closed, all the parts that lock the wing are still moving. The oil coolers are detailed deep up inside that you'd never look at. The intercooler door, take a close look at the intercooler door and open and close it and look at how the sides accordion up and down. They put a huge amount of work into the model for what is an early access model. Thoughts on the 3D model? Because I'm blown away by it.
3D model, I think you hit it on the head, but I would like to expound because I fly with pretty decent graphics. And when you first sit in there and the wings are folded, you're in a teepee, and that is fantastic. You're just looking
love
at
that.
Pretty
and
cool.
like one thing that I would even like, I think not only is it fantastic for early release, it's fantastic because if you're sitting there with the wings folded and the wind is blowing, if there's a crosswind and you have a Moza or some sort of force feedback, the stick will start to move a little bit.
Yeah.
And at first you're like, oh man, this is stupid, it's broken, it's not working. But then you look up and you see the flight control surfaces are moving just a little bit in the wind like this. And it's translating down into the force feedback, into the butt kicker, into the vibration. And you're like, holy crap. Like,
yeah. And
it is awesome.
Jimmy, you're absolutely right. The first thing I noticed when I first spawned in the airplane, the very first time, were the wings folded up over my head. And it was like, oh, that is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
it's
For me, I love the detail of the texturing of everything.
Yes.
I'm going to complain about this. I feel like it's too. I
know what you're
like,
saying.
To me, I feel like it's too old. Like, I get it that it's supposed to feel worn in and it's supposed to feel like a fleet aircraft where, it's seen a couple missions. But to me, I feel like it's a little too far down that with like missing like labels and stuff like that in cockpits. If they just kind of scaled that back and not made it look like an 80-year-old aircraft, if they just made it look like it was 40 years old instead, like I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
I'd be happy with it. But that would be my only complaint.
I would say don't change a thing.
I love it.
I like that though, because that's like
Yeah,
the Tomcat. The Tomcat, they did that big update 1.5 years ago where they made it look old and it felt better. Inside the Corsair, where you see the wood is worn down, where you see all the labels are, they've been kicked or scratched or,
Yeah.
the
Right.
keys for the airplane have been drug across it,
I mean,
there's
there's a perfect balance on that, right? And maybe they did weather it a little too much, but I'd rather them weather a little too much than not enough at all. And that
They make it look
I'll
brand new,
point
right?
out the update to the F5. Like, jump in the F5 and it is got 0.2 hours on it. Like, it is brand new out of the factory. There's not a speck of dust or dirt, and there's like no F5 that's that clean. So if they're gonna weather it a little too much, that's better than not enough.
That's fair.
I think the 3D model is fantastic, and bravo. I think they did a great job.
Once they get the gear visual bug figured out.
There are
And that's
some
one of those
bugs,
things
yep,
that-
and one of the most notable is that you will see your landing gear come up, but every other Corsair flying with you is gear stuff. You know how many times we have radioed to each other, check gear, and it's not
gear check.
Yeah, but and that happens when you do a launch into multiplayer. So, that's a pass on that one. It's going to be something.
It's a thing.
Ever perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, another thing too that we talked about it with the Black Shark, when you put all that effort into detailing parts that you don't see, structures inside the wing and inside the fuselage and tail. I mean, I F4'd back through the gear wheel and the tail wheel and up into the fuselage, and all the ribs are modeled. But that allows you to have a very good damage model. You have
Right.
not a paint picture of what the inside would look like, but actually a hole, and you see cables and pulleys and airplane structure.
And they move.
And-
Remember, you were showing me how like the aileron control cables were
Yeah,
moving.
the push rods up in the
when
gear
you're-
wheel are moving.
Yeah, the push rods. Yeah.
So
and for the sake of this review, I crashed a lot.
yeah.
Damage review is really good.
It's not for any other reason except for just for the sake of the review that we
Yeah.
crashed a lot.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to the big thing,
Okay.
the flight model.
Can I,
and the discovery of the flight model that
I'm gonna
we've
preface this if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I think when I first this goes into what Jimmy asked about with us flying a mission last night. When I first flew it, I was not terribly impressed with the flight model. It felt like Fifi said, like there's just something amiss. And I think there's still stuff that can be improved on and fixed from this early access, but my initial impression wasn't stellar. And then I flew a mission with Jimmy last night, and I was getting fed up. Like I was getting very frustrated with the Corsair and its performance. And that is not Magnitude's fault, and that's not the Corsair's fault. That's on me and on most of the people that are upset with at least the performance aspect. If I grew up loving World War II airplanes, and if you look up the Corsair, what is one of the things it's touted as? Speed. It's one of the fastest World War II fighters we had, especially in the Pacific Fleet, right? And so here's this 2,000 horsepower, R2800 powered Corsair that in my mind is this 400 mile per hour or 400 plus knot monster of an airplane. Is it capable of going super fast? Hell yeah. That's why it gets that reputation. You go really fast in some of these planes and they come apart, or you get compressibility, and the Corsair can go really fast and be stable and controllable. It is not, and I'm going to say this out loud, it is not a fast airplane. I went into it expecting a 400 mile an hour, 2,000 horsepower fast fighter. It is not a fast fighter. That the bar that I had set because of what I had thought about this airplane is so high up that the astronauts in the ISS were getting hit by it. And so it didn't meet that bar because my expectation was horrible. So if you are flying,
he said that, and I laughed.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, and I start chuckling. My wife's like, "What's so funny?" Because we're like watching TV, and I was like, "Oh, Scott said something."
Dude, I had this expectation, and then I'm disappointed in. I'm trying to climb out at 160, 170 knots, and barely getting any climb rate, and I'm pushing the engine as hard as possible, and I'm just thinking something's wrong. It's because I'm not flying it like a Corsair. So if you're upset with the performance because you expected this fast fighter, change your expectations. If you're not flying this yet and you want to get it, you need to expect that you're jumping into a very slow flying fighter. And then you're going to be pleased with it if you can accept that. I was thinking of the Corsair as kind of like a Mustang. That is an unfair comparison. They are
What
not.
a flex. Did you see him just flex that?
I did flex. It's not there. It's a horrible comparison. The Mustang is a
TIE fighter.
Yeah.
Compared to my upside down teddy bear.
It's even better. So yeah, that comparison's unfair. It was not built to be a high speed, fighter. It was not built with a high speed laminar flow wing. It is a naval. It's not even a fighter. It's a naval surface warfare ground attack fighter. It's a multi-role airplane.
It's it is literally a Swiss Army knife for the Pacific.
Yeah. So
and not only that, but like another issue with the handling of it is the fact that the 1D, the Dash 1 model of the F4s, had fabric control surfaces, metal wings, fabric control surfaces. And that's a huge deal when it comes to handling in an aircraft. And the F4U-4s were the first ones that actually had the metal control surfaces, which allowed them to fly a lot faster.
Yes.
So these fabric control surfaces don't do it any help. Yeah, more gooder.
More gooder. So if you're going into this or you have bought it and you're upset with the performance, this is a multi-role ground attack fighter with an R2800 engine. This is the Navy's version of the P-47. And that's kind of how you need to think of this. You're not jumping into a Spit or an ME-109, or you're not jumping into a Mustang. You're jumping into the Navy's version of a P-47, and it's slower than a P-47. So it's more maneuverable, but you're jumping into a slower version of the P-47 that the Navy has. The next time I flew it, I went into it with the mindset that this is a slow airplane, and that if I fly it as a slow airplane with the right power settings and with the right performance in mind, then it started to fly much better and much more as expected, and it started to perform like I wanted it to. So for example, we pull some numbers. The Mustang, I'm going to use knots when I can, but the Mustang, it's like best climb is like 250 miles an hour, right? That's fast. And that's where you're going to get the best climb out of it. The P47, its best climb is, it reads in miles an hour, but I converted it to knots because that's what the F4 is. The P47, its best climb speed is 160 to 170 knots. The Corsair's best climb speed, give or take with weight changes, is 130 knots. If you get it at 130 knots at the right power setting, I mean, you're doing 2,000 plus feet a minute. It climbs, but
It does.
it climbs with it just what feels like terribly slow airspeed. So I wasn't flying it the way it was supposed to be flown because I didn't understand how slow the airplane wants to be flown in different regimes. And then once I did, I was like, oh man, I can gain altitude quick. I just got to be willing to do it at 130 knots.
And that goes back to the fact that the Corsair was not designed to be the fastest fighter in the sky. It was designed to be a little bit faster than the Zero,
which is
and I think
terribly slow. Well, we'll talk about the Zero numbers here too.
Yeah.
So
yep.
P47, more of a real comparison, Army, Air Corps to Navy. Its best turn speed's 210 to 220 knots, roughly. The Corsair's 150 to 170. So if you get it into that rough area of best turn speed, it does turn. It turns well. But if you try to turn it like a Mustang, it's not going to do what you want. If you try to even turn it like a P47, it's not. You have to be willing to fight this airplane at a slower speed. Cruise speeds, the P47 cruises at 215 to 220 knots at cruise power, roughly. The Corsair, 180 to 190 knots. Maybe 200 if you're light, depending on altitude. So that's the expectation that once I change my switch the gears mentally myself, all of a sudden the airplane was like, it was flying more like it should. And I was finding myself enjoying it a hell of a lot more. And then it was kind of cool. Like I was cruising back to the Hornet or the Essex rather to land. And I've got cruise power set and I'm doing 180, 190 knots, which is slow. But now I'm cruising back to the flotilla slow, trimmed up, and the airplane's just sitting exactly where I want it, happy. And then I was like, it started to feel like I wasn't fighting the module, and it started to feel like I could imagine I was coming back to the Navy carrier in a Corsair. And I'm like, oh, this is the feeling I was looking for. Now I feel like I'm flying a Corsair, not fighting a bad module. So I think the performance is there. You just have to expect the right thing out of it. To compare it to the Zero, though, because that's what it was built to fight against, right? It was built to be better than the Zero. Do you have the numbers on the Zero, Jimmy? I do. You want to read them off?
Yeah, one thing I would also piggyback on what Scott is saying. We didn't go to ChatGPT. We didn't say, hey AI, what is this?
No,
we actually pulled the flight. We pulled the flight manual.
Yeah, we pulled the manual on the airplane.
Yeah, this is a lot of tireless research.
And it's kind of funny because just so you guys understand, like the process we went through, literally 8 hours ago, Scud and I, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Scud and I are sitting there, and we're both like, all right, we're going to bed. This airplane sucks. And then Scud said these one words that then kept us up even like 2 more hours. He's like, let me get the manual. And so he sat there with the manual up, and he's like, all right, get to this speed, get to this power, now turn. And then all of a sudden, we both shut up because I was literally turning inside of an airfield.
Yeah,
and
it started to work. Oh,
you have to
go ahead.
You have to remember that so the United States Department of Defense, the war, whatever it was called back in World War II, we don't build stuff just for the fun of it, or we retired. They don't build stuff just for the fun of it. We find an adversary. Great case in point, the F-15. Russia said, hey, we've got this freaking super awesome jet. America says, hey, you know what? We're going to develop something and we're going to make sure it one-ups it. So it is very targeted. It is very deliberate when the U.S. Department of Defense spends money to develop and buy stuff. The Corsair was built to fight in the Pacific off of a boat against the Zero. And the Zero, all the movies we watch, we know, Zero's, super scary airplane. The Zero's best climb speed is 220 to 240 knots.
Climb speed?
Best climb speed, not two. Yeah. Words are hard. 120 to 140. The cruise speed, best economy, is 180. The top speed, remember top speed of the Corsair, over 400 in a dive. Top speed of the Zero, 275. Otherwise, you start ripping shit off. Cornering speed, 100 to 120 knots.
Dude, the Zero is terribly slow. I didn't know that until we were pulling these numbers.
Yeah.
The
Well, 'cause
the
it's an all
Corsair
wooden fabric
shits on
aircraft.
it.
Well, it does. So
It's an all
go
wooden.
ahead.
Yeah. So it's because it's an all wooden fabric aircraft, and I'll let you guys finish that. I'm gonna let you finish, but Taylor Swift had the
But me
best
first.
album. Yeah, but no, and I'll get into like the engineering and the design of the Corsair here in a minute when you guys finish with the comparison, because I think there's some big things there that people need to understand. But shutting up, I'm just gonna keep staring at my pinup.
I think the biggest thing when you go in and you look at the Corsair, the biggest thing is you don't think this is fighting Messerschmitts. This is not fighting 109s, 190s. It's not chasing the 80
Ankle bombers,
the
Ju-88s.
It's not fighting the Ju-88. It is fighting the Zero off of a boat.
Yes.
And it is supporting the island to island warfare that we had in the Pacific back in World War II.
It is an entirely different theater.
Jimmy's going full senior NCO on us. Did you hear him tapping the desk?
Knife handing. No, so yeah, you know, and I did fail to mention
it's a snap and point. Hey, you.
It's a snap and point. Yeah.
I did fail to mention too that it says in the manual below 200 knots you can drop 20 degrees of flap to help turn. So that's another thing that adds to the performance. So if you fly the airplane the way it was supposed to be flown, and you accept the fact that you're not flying a 400 mile an hour, 2,000 horsepower fighter, you're flying a 2,000 horsepower fighter that's designed to go slow because it needs to take off and land on an aircraft carrier in World War II. You know,
stably.
Yeah, it suddenly becomes a really fun airplane to fly. And I was just fighting it. I was fighting the airplane and not flying it the way it was meant to be flown. And once I changed my expectation, it became a lot better to fly. I will throw out, that being said, like suddenly I feel like the flight model is not nearly as bad as everyone made it out to be. And the performance is definitely on the numbers. We were looking in the book, and it was doing exactly what the numbers from the original manual said it should. It is performing exactly right. So performance is there, and I think the flight model is probably a lot closer to what it should be than we thought initially. That being said, there are a couple things that me and Fifi have been talking about that we think are obvious areas where the flight model can be improved, but it's a much smaller ask to say, hey, these are some areas we can improve on, versus saying the flight model sucks and you guys made a bad product. Because I don't think that's I don't think that's the truth at all. I think it's a great product. To me and Fifi, and I don't know if Jimmy agrees, the flight model, the controls feel oversensitive. With the Moza flight stick, I have removed every curve on every airplane I have, and every airplane feels great. And suddenly on this airplane, I need to add a ton of curve to not over control the airplane. So I feel like it is very sensitive to controls. And when it does get into some of the movements and waffling and stalls, it feels way too light. Fifi said it looks like a paper airplane. It doesn't feel like it has mass as much as I would expect. And then for me, the stall characteristics in any of these fighters, when you like in the Mustang, when you get too much AOA and it snap rolls on you, you know when you're about to hit that point because you can tell the plane is on the edge. And you can't feel this in a sim. You can't feel the G-forces. You can't feel the plane buffet. You can't feel the shake. So what they do is they add in things or augment it or increase the other senses you have to give you the sensation that you're on the edge. So the plane shakes and you hear it audibly shake. You can see the canopy and the glare shield and the instrument panel shake. And so you start to feed in with your eyes and ears what you can't feel in the plane. And I feel like that is missing in this airplane. There is almost nothing audibly or shaking or visually. There's nothing to feed my senses to tell me that I am pulling this plane on the edge of a stall. So there's no lead up. There's no feel. Here's about where I'm on the edge. It's just pull, and it's over. It stalls. And
so, and sorry, not to cut you off.
No,
Sean.
you go ahead.
Finish
I'm done.
So,
I got one.
with,
After
yeah,
you.
go. No,
after
you go first. No, mine's going to be a while.
Oh, mine's quick. So, last episode, 2 episodes ago, we did the ASMR with the sounds. Great thing to kind of emphasize on what Scud's saying. Inside the F4, F14, when you pull, they have layers and layers and layers of audio that let you know that you're pulling G's down to teeth chattering. And that's not something that is inside the Corsair. You don't get that down to teeth chattering that you are hard in a turn.
Right. So now going into while Scott and Jimmy were off testing all this stuff, I did a deep dive into because my
Who you
first
are.
degree that I never used ever because of other crap, but was aeronautical engineering. So I went into like the engineering documentation of it and what it's supposed to fly like by engineering documentation. I will say this up front. The developer, Mag 3, put into DCS exactly what the engineering documentation said, word for word. Like it is that. But that having been said, there are the Corsair had a lot of weird quirks about it because of like the design of the wings with the gull wing. Like those wing roots where the oil coolers and some other coolers were in there were designed to be as least amount of drag as possible because there's gigantic inlets in them, and you can see that when you go, and so because of that, it also created a lot of weird airflow and turbulent air between the rest of the wing and the little wing root gulls. And so because of that, the plane had a tendency to side slip a lot and kind of bounce around with the nose, which is something that we notice in game, right? So it's very yaw. It's hard to keep guns on target because it's kind of twitchy in the yaw and even in the pitch as well because of that characteristic. And they did an excellent job simulating that. But that's where I think I want to emphasize how important it is to have SMEs look at finding somebody who flies planes, right? Who flies old Warbirds, who, like perfect example, like how Casmo helped Polychop out with the Kiowa and the Apache. Polychop didn't do the Apache, so don't roast me yet. But that when Casmo helped do the development process of the Apache and the Kiowa as a SME, and and really like giving feedback on
A
it.
SME is a subject matter expert.
Right. And hey, this is not how it really flies. It kind of does this at this point in time. And this, you can tell that they did not have that for the F4U because of the fact that somebody would have said, hey, this is not really, yes, it does do that, but this is something that's corrected really easily by the pilot because he feels it in his butt while he's flying it. And these are the issues that you're seeing that's sending the plane into like that one DCS, the one video on Hoggett that went viral like 3 hours after it launched, where it does like that random like flip snap, like almost look like like what's that, the something bell that the Su-57 does. But that's because you can't feel and give those intangible subconscious corrections to kind of fix that. So there might need to be some aids or something like that put in, or you just have to be more conscious of it. But if you fly it within the envelope that Scud was saying, it's not nearly as pronounced as it is now. So now at this point and we're talking like this morning, Scud's explaining all this stuff to me, and we're going through there and we're talking about it. We had a really good conversation about it, and he got me to get to fly it again within the confines, and oh my god, it's a completely different airplane. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not gonna like resell it. Maybe I'm not gonna ask for my money back and then try to go buy a Germany map instead and download 205 gigabytes of map into my freaking computer. But
yeah,
I think
maps are just a hard drive away. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
I think
Hey,
we're all
ScanDisk.
wrong.
ScanDisk. You want to hook us up?
I think it's I think now that I understand the airplane, the flight model is not nearly as bad as I thought it was. I think there's a few areas that an early access module is going to have where they're going to make it a little bit more playable and a little bit more dampened out, and maybe control sensitivities and add some audio and some shaking. That if they add to that and just, I think it'll find its place very quickly and be a much more enjoyable and flyable module. And it literally, like we said, this went from a few days ago of us tearing it apart and hating it to by this morning realizing how much potential it has, how much we like it, how much we were flying it wrong and not giving it its due because we didn't understand, because we had childish weird expectations from me being a little kid thinking it's super fast and not flying it like a slow plane. Let's move on and talk about weapons, machine guns, rockets, bombs, all that stuff. You've flown any Warbirds, you're familiar with it. But they've added on something entirely new to DCS. The short on it, Jimmy, you want to give us the quick and dirty on the bat bomb?
Yeah, so the
I haven't
bat
touched this
bomb,
yet, so
fantastic piece
I haven't
of
touched the bat
It's
bomb.
so cool.
fantastic piece of equipment. Small bugs, but it is awesome because when you load it, you get a small display right up on the top of the controls, and it is a first generation radar seeking glide bomb
Anti-ship missile.
and anti-ship missile. It is absolutely fantastic, and the way they modeled it, it feels good. It feels exactly like the manual says it should. Procedurally, feels great. You can't turn it off. I'm sure that
There's a couple glitches, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're
but-
using the weapons radar to identify ships, lock onto them, and within range drop a glide bomb that guides itself into a ship. And this is World War II tech that actually existed on the Corsair.
It's wild.
Amazing.
It's awesome because the Warbirds campaign that we're building, there's one mission that we built. Every time it kicks our butt, but every time we finish, I always go, man, I'm deleting this one, and everybody says, no, you can't, because the flight, the weather, the challenge is perfect.
The submarine one. The submarine.
It is
one
the
that
submarine
Scott
one.
and I rage about every time we.
Dude,
now
finish
you
it.
can
Everybody
sub-hunt.
does.
Now you can sub hunt in a
But-
Corsair with a radar guided, air to surface weapon.
To set the stage, it's heavy weather. The British fleet has forced a German U-boat to surface, and the 5.6 is tasked. Actually happened. It's tasked to go out and finish off this sub, and it's on a patrol route in this huge, I don't even know how many square miles area it is in the channel. And every time it's always a challenge. Got to find this thing because your boy scripted it. It's elusive. And last night we're flying out there. We're in the weather, and Scud's like, "Oh, hey, I got on a radar, off her nose, 3 miles," and we're like, "All right, let's drive in and find it." And it was
Dog
it was right there. Oh yeah.
Dog's like, I think we need to get under the weather because I got something on the bat bomb's radar. And so we dive under the weather and like, oh, hey, there's a submarine.
Parked right there, stupid U-boat that kills us every time. The U-boat's not what kills us. It's us trying to hit a moving target at 27 knots with World War II tech.
Yes, but now you can throw a glide bomb. Short on that, but that is an entirely new weapon to Warbird that I did not expect in DCS, and it's going to change the way this game is played, and it's badass.
It will be awesome for Pacific Theater night operations.
So bravo to the developers for that, and then other bravo to them. Thank you so much for not just giving us a Navy World War II plane, but giving us a carrier to go with it. You want to talk to that?
The Essex.
He said no. You want to talk to it, Fifi?
So it's really
I gotta
cool.
land on it first before I can talk
I can
about
teach
it.
you. I figured it
Scott
out.
and I did another. Yeah, he did. He freaking. It was perfect. It was a perfect landing. So yeah, they gave us the Essex, and it's the CV9. They did add like an extra elevator on the side, like that actual elevator parking spot with the X on it. But we were like, no, Scott was like, no, there was another version of the elevator, and it's
Yep.
it's wild.
The CV7
And
Wasp
it's like
side elevator is crazy.
the skeleton elevator, and it's even on there. Yeah, again, early access. Cue the. My complaint. My only complaint, because I'm gonna bitch about it, but like my only complaint is like cue the clip of Scud and his Bernie Sanders impersonation coming in. I might actually just drop that in here, like of like paid modules and wanting to see them finished and not early access. And it is cool. It is great. And the damage model on that needs to be fixed a little bit and updated.
Toughened up a little bit, little grit.
Yeah, little grit. But it is cool. I saw another thing that like the 127 millimeter guns. No, not 127s.
5 inches.
The
5
guns
millimeter.
on
Yeah,
the 5 inchers. Yeah, but that is 127 millimeters. Anyways, so the 5 inchers aren't
The American
firing
ones
and stuff like that. Yeah. What the fuck is a kilometer? but it's a really cool landing, and us being Hornet guys, like we always want to try to hit it with the angled deck.
Dude,
and like
I cannot reprogram my brain to not cross the wake.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's so good, but it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's challenging as hell. I'm gonna try to get Scud to actually host a class on how to actually land this on there because he figured it out.
Yeah, it's
Because he's a much better pilot than me.
Everybody else combined.
I
Yeah,
love the
that's
Essex.
true.
Taking off. It's weird to take off. Again, we're talking super slow airplane, right? The stall speed with the flaps down in the Corsair is like 70 knots. Like you're going to be flying
70 knots.
this thing's super slow, but it's so weird to not catapult, but just roll down half the carrier deck and like drop a couple feet off the edge and keep flying. It's World War II stuff. It's really fun. Coming in to land on it is, once you've kind of figured it out, it's like, oh, this is a whole new challenge, and that's fun. Yes, it doesn't shoot guns yet. There needs to be some work on the damage model. They're going to update and make it better, but this is a glimpse of what's potentially going to come and build in DCS, which is real Pacific theater stuff. They've given us a carrier and shown us like the light at the end of the tunnel. And we were talking about
this is only phase 1 release.
Yes,
too.
we were talking about the development of this from like, oh, we have a gimmicky carrier we can land and take off on, to defending against an attack on your carrier fleet while all of the anti-aircraft guns are firing, or attacking a Japanese battleship and its support fleet. Like Pacific naval warfare, the aerial part of naval warfare is a whole untapped area that this just gives us a glimpse.
Now, in the meantime, I think there's an elephant in the room that we gotta hit, is the fact that, knowing all this stuff about the Corsair, figuring all this out now, and Scud mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the speeds and how it flies in the performance envelope. Do not go in and put BF-109s and Focke-Wulf 190s and try to fight them, because you're going to get your butt kicked.
Maybe,
because
I mean,
it wasn't designed to fly against them, and it's going to piss you off. You're going to rage quit on it, and you're going to go back and you're going to pull a Fifi, and you're going to go back and you're just going to fly the Mustang and terrorize all the Corsairs flying around trying to land on the Essex while you're just doing laps around them in a Mustang.
Yeah.
This is a true story.
Somebody out there's gonna be good at it. They're gonna be able to kill all these Axis and European American fighters in a Corsair. And if you can do that, great. But just understand that's not what it was built for. So yeah, you if you don't know what you're doing, we've talked about this in the past. Like, you fight to your strengths and your enemy's weaknesses, and so you really got to know where the Corsair's strengths and weaknesses are. And it wasn't designed to go against these threats. It was designed to attack land-based targets and enemy naval vessels while fighting its way through zeros. Have realistic expectations.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is, I think they need to really get the zero out.
We do need,
like, the AI zero badly, and I'm surprised that
it's coming.
I'm surprised they didn't release it with it, because it's not. This is we could talk about this next episode, but this is my complaint with DCS, and it's not completely on Ego Dynamics, even though they are the final say about whether or not to put this module out. But there is a problem with incomplete content, and that's going to be a whole episode next about that. But so please don't get mad because things don't go the way you expect them to go in the Corsair, because there's not an environment for the Corsair really yet outside of the Essex and flying it around and sightseeing on the Marianas World.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that.
Looks awesome. Yeah. So quick blurb on that.
Just show thumbs.
Oh yeah,
show thumbs. Yeah, I love it.
It's perfect.
They're laying the groundwork for a Pacific theater DCS environment.
And that Marianas map is awesome. Like the dirt strips, and then they added a couple extra little islands in there.
So they're not. So they're not added, but they are rendered to the era. So they're not overgrown jungles. They are.
Yeah, it's fair.
The 1 mile islands with one dirt strip on it. So like Pagan.
Yeah.
Pagan's a great example. There's like 5 structures on it. Modern day, World War II, Japan used that as a foothold and as an airstrip. So you fly over it on modern day Marianas, nothing, jungle.
Right. Well, it's a good place to
over
it. Land the C-130, and then you guys all figured it out. Now my oasis is gone now.
our training server on both Modern and World War II, we now have full airstrips on Pagan for the Warbirds. So, and
Yeah.
Fifi got in one day. He's like, "Wait, what are you guys doing there?"
That's all Fifi
So
wants.
bad.
We can go do Warbirds all day long, and all he wants is one C-130 that he can take off from Guam, fly to his little private island, and land there. And then he's just gonna sit there, looking like that in a hammock by himself on his own little island.
That's what I
Hercules
do.
right there.
Fifi Paradise.
Yeah. Jimmy Buffett is my hero.
You cheeseburger in paradise?
I am a cheeseburger in paradise. You know, his sister actually has a restaurant down the street from me.
Oh yeah, was it good?
Lulu's. It's called Lulu's. That's not bad. There's a guy who flies a seaplane tours out the back of it. He'll take you and do touch and goes out at the sandbar.
Wow,
And it,
nice.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I went into this episode when Fifi, when we reined him back from going solo on his rage episode against this. I kind of dreaded this episode because I did not want to jump in here and beat up on the developers or the module that I've been waiting so long on. And I was pleasantly surprised by the time we got to recording that my opinion on it had changed so much just by understanding it.
In our opinions, it is 11 o'clock Sunday night right now, and this episode's going to air in like 6 hours. Like our opinion didn't only changed like maybe 10 hours ago.
Yeah,
like this morning.
Yeah, it's accurate.
I just think we all went, and maybe a lot of other people went into it with the bar set wrong and the expectation wrong. Before we end, I do want to mention the poll that we did from last week on the attack choppers. We asked between the Mi-24 Hind, the Black Shark, and the Apache, what people fly.
I forgot about that.
63% of the people voted fly the Apache. The Black Shark at 25%, and only 13%, understandably, the Hind. So there's that poll. And what about next week, Fifi?
So next week it's another. This is like Fifi's like next 2 rage weeks. I got so it's like I am just like I'm going through like DCS menopause right now, and I'm just going to be raging against everything. And so next week we're going to talk about like content, like actual like content creation, the lack of content. You know, how we keep putting out aircraft and modules and things like that, and how it's kind of like a false content. But you know, we're not helping the content creators create content. It's a drinking game now. How many times have I said content? Take a shot. But like, you know, there's guys like Jimmy here, or like the Heapler dudes running like the Heapler who took over from Enigma, who got burnt out because of the lack of support in creating content. There's another shot. And then or even like the Gray Flag guys, like, and the rotor heads, like, so we're going to talk about that and how I think DCS probably needs, and Ego Dynamics needs to stop putting out aircraft for a little bit, and let's focus on actually getting stuff to do with the aircraft that we have in game.
Yeah. Which
take some
High Alpha Hooligans running its new servers and putting out content in the way of building these World War II missions, which now with the F4
and other missions
is moving from not just a European campaign, but now there's plans being laid to do a Pacific island hopping campaign in the F4, and the F-86 campaign that's being built, and the F4 Phantom campaign that's being built.
Yeah, that would
and
really good.
Some of these are active campaigns you can join and fly, and some of these are in work to be released as products for your download. All of that, the brainchild of Jimmy.
Yep.
Yes.
I'm just a janitor. I keep
saying that.
He keeps saying that. And then I think we're going live on a 1970s F4 Phantom campaign shortly on our
like before we started recording. So you guys want to talk about migration?
Yes. So we
Ice Age
getting sponsored and everything like that changed a lot of stuff up for us. And so we have the High Alpha Hooligans Discord, and then we also have the 56 Discord, which was Jimmy's love child before we created the High Alpha Hooligans podcast. We're going to be combining all that and making it all in one central place. So keep an eye out on that. I think we're going to convert the 56 Discord into the High Alpha Hooligans Discord. So if you're in our High Alpha Hooligans Discord, I'll drop a link. Just make sure you come over and join the 56 Discord, because that's where everything's going to be going. I'll probably be annoying, just hitting at everyone like daily, just to make sure everybody gets over there. And then and we'll create that world over there. More to come on that.
Yeah.
For
and
sure.
It's not going to be so. High Alpha Hooligans not becoming 5-6. High Alpha Hooligans branding staying the same. That's not changing at all. But we're creating in one Discord a place for listeners to come and make fun of Fifi's pinup. And then if you want, we can give you the role to where you can have access to fly on our servers with us if you want.
Yeah. So
if not, nothing changes.
Join, interact with us, and then at your leisure, expand and fly in what we create. I also want to throw out a bit of a teaser. We haven't gotten all of this stuff dialed in yet. We're still putting the plans together, but listen up in future episodes as we start to iron out the first High Alpha Hooligans dogfight tournament. That once we get it all dialed in and set up, we're going to have signups, so you can sign up with your aircraft of choice in modern jets, at least for now, like 4th gen
brackets,
and we're going to have brackets. We're going to have a prize, and we're going to go live on YouTube with it, with us as your commentators while we organize and fly the dogfight tournament. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye on us for updates.
One thing I'd add, talking about prize, 5-6 operations group, we have a constant campaign going, and it is scored. And whoever has the highest score at the end of the campaign wins the module or the terrain of their choice. And with the migration of the High Alpha over into that prize is now going to be part of a open server opportunity for anybody who listens to High Alpha or is part of the 5-6.
We also have a prize that is owed to a random viewer from our first 50, and we need to get that out before we migrate over, because now we know who is just in this Discord. So I'm putting that on Fifi, because he keeps saying, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
I keep forgetting. Listen, we've been busy. We've been really busy. So yeah, I'll get that out, and I'll make the announcement on that one for sure.
All right. Final thoughts.
I got closing. We're good.
Share this around. Share us around. Really campaign now to if you like this, copy the link. Show your friends a YouTube video. Sit them down. Make sure they have to stare at the pinup. And but as usual, thanks everybody. It's a lot of fun doing this.
Yes.
And for me.
Yeah, for me, thanks to the sponsors. That's so good to say. Thanks to our sponsor, Fox 3 Servers.
Yeah.
And in regards to the topic today, if you're not loving the F4, change your mindset and set your expectations appropriately for what that airplane is, and then give it another chance. And I think you might find yourself changing your opinion on it. Yeah, Jimmy?
With that, I'll drop the PDF for the flight manual for the F4 inside the Discord so that you can actually look at the documentation, fly it within that outline, and it's a different experience. I was going to say something, Fox 3, big beeping to it. Fox 3, awesome. And don't forget to keep your language clean when you're online.